Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's July 15th, it's Friday, and baseball is back. It was a much needed break, 4 days off. All-Star break was awesome. Home Run Derby was great. The All-Star game was very good. And I'm just excited to be able to get back on the grind, play some fantasy baseball here tonight, and I'm excited to talk about it. I'm bringing in the guy that right before the All-Star break pinch hit for me a ton, so I'm giving him the honor of coming on this Friday one-day podcast this week.
Hey, thanks, Stevie. It's good to be back.
I had to lead in a lot there, Siege. We're going to be way up here today because we've done so much research for this slate. We've got our articles already in and everything. It's just like we're so prepared for this slate, and there's probably going to be 6 more pitching changes before the slate starts.
Yeah, we were just talking before the slate. We were thrilled about a guy. We load up Fantasy Draft, the sponsor of the podcast, and we see a different pitcher in for the team. And sure enough, the Red Sox have made a pitching change on us.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that here in a second. You watched the All-Star, festivities?
I did. I watched the Derby. I watched the game. I enjoyed it all because I knew the Red Sox. You need that home field.
So I put out a poll before we got on earlier this morning around noon, and it was talking about if people like the new Home Run Derby format. 89% yes, 11% no. A lot of people like this new format. I absolutely love it. It was really entertaining. It was just fun to watch, and I feel like the best home run hitter in the Derby actually won, and we don't see that every time.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It was, I didn't think he was going to win. I thought he was going to tire himself out, but just to hit that many balls that far, that soon, that in a row was pretty incredible.
I like that him and Trumbo got to go face each other because I felt like those two guys against each other were all the bombs, and it was just fun to watch.
Yeah, I wanted that to be the finals. It was kind of annoying when that was the semis. I was like, man, this should be the finals. Like, they should vote. The only change I would make is Twitter, or you should vote the seeding.
Or get rid of the seedings and let the most home runs. Make them hit that 4 minutes and just it wears you out. Make them hit a full 4 minutes.
I'd like the head-to-head match, but it'd be awesome if Twitter did it or the voting did it, because then players would be ticked off oh, I have no respect, and suddenly you'd have the no respect card.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. The All-Star game was great. Just watching all the best players in baseball face off against each other. You know what else is great? FantasyDraft.com. They're great enough to sponsor this podcast every day. I'm repping my Fantasy Draft shirt right now. Very comfortable. Nice to do a podcast and some fantasy swag here. So make sure you guys head on over to FantasyDraft.com. Use promo code GRINDERS. That way you get incentives here at Roto Grinders for free for a year for Fantasy Draft, which is a $180 value, and you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. They have a $5,000 home run tonight, 227 entries, only a 6-entry max, so you're not going to be playing against people that have 50 entries because, hey, that'd be a fourth of the tournament. So make sure you guys head on over, check that out, and we're going to talk some baseball here, CJ. I kind of alluded to that we really knew this slate, and we've really broken it down. We've had articles. We've had all our stuff. It's time to talk about it, and we're going to start with Boston at New York. It's not Rodriguez, like we said. It's going to be Wright against Pineda. Wright against the Yankees. We were talking about it. BVP with knuckleballers, and he looks like he has some good BVP here.
Yeah, and the price is super fair industry-wide. He's only 18.9 on draft. I think that's completely fine. 9.2 on FanDuel. I always like the guys that aren't listed as the probable starter early on in the night. If he doesn't get changed soon, that's going to just drive down ownership, and it's a pretty good spot for him against a team that just really has struggled against all forms of knuckleballs.
Yeah, they don't strike out a ton, but I see this being a game that Wright can throw 7-8 innings and pick up the win. Pineda on the other side of this game, it looks like a good matchup here for the Red Sox bats. They're going to want to get it going here in the second half. They just made a massive trade. They're making that push for Ortiz's last season here.
Yeah, and speaking of David Ortiz, he's just my favorite play on industry-wide tonight. We talked about the amount of research we've done. David Ortiz has 14 home runs versus right-handed pitching to right field. If every game was played in Yankee Stadium, he would have 24.
That's just you're setting the bar high here, CJ.
That just shows you the power upside he's got here on this slate, and he's not even a top 3 first baseman on FanDuel. Lock and load for me.
Yeah. One thing we want to note here, we're coming off the All-Star break, so these guys have had a couple days of rest, which is always nice. Being with family, we're going to get guys that are well rested, and we're going to get guys that are still on vacation, and it's going to make for a very fun slate. I love these types of slates. It's like opening day. I just love these slates. Let's talk bats in this game. Do you like any Yankees bats here?
No.
Plain, simple, no, and to the point. Outside of Ortiz, who you got for the Red Sox?
Mookie Betts on FanDuel is free. If you play a cash game and Mookie Betts is not on it, you are just asking to lose. I'm going the whole. I'm stealing the entire damn Bach line. 3.5K for Mookie Betts on FanDuel. Unacceptable at any point, let alone against a bad pitcher in Yankee Stadium. I mean, just it's hard for me to fan him in tournaments too. That price is just so cheap for a guy with that much production and upside. Crushes right-handed pitching, 219 ISO on the season. I love Mookie everywhere, especially on FanDuel.
Yeah, Pineda, he's a guy that he likes to challenge right-handed bats. Like, I've noticed that about him a lot, and you can tell by his walk rate. He doesn't walk a lot of right-handed bats. He likes to challenge him. Mookie Betts, batting in that leadoff spot, 3,500 on FanDuel. Probably a lock for 4 at-bats with the potential of 5. I agree with CJ here. 3,500 on FanDuel is really cheap for Mookie Betts. I think you can look at Xander here as well, 3,400. He's hitting over 330 this year. Like, he's having an all-star type season, and we've seen him, make the all-star team.
And the power, 10 home runs, 11 steals, kind of like sneakily on a pace for maybe a 2020 season, which would be amazing for a shortstop. Back in the day, a 2020 shortstop. Now the shortstop's loaded, but back in the day, you'd been like, oh my God.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of guys under 3K that I'm interested in this game. I think it's going to be those 3 top guys here.
Travis Shaw, I think, is a little interesting. Pineda challenges hitters, as you mentioned. And, we talk about Shaw. He's kind of a fastball-only guy. But if Pineda's challenging him and he connects on one, it could leave the yard.
Don't hate that call. Don't hate that call. New York Mets heading to Philadelphia to take on the Phillies. Bartolo Colon against Hellickson. Mets electing here to give Syndergaard and DeGrom an extra couple days and going with Colon and Verrett here off the All-Star break. You like that move?
I think they needed it. It's kind of like a quasi-DL stint, kind of give them 7 to 10 days, and hopefully they got it figured out. But today, we get to target Bartolo Colon, which is one of those things in DFS that can make you or burn you.
Yeah, and I feel like this year we've been able to target him a lot more, and he hasn't punched us in the face like last year.
Yeah, I feel like he's been a lot more mediocre this year, and kind of like just like he doesn't have the dominant games, just every game is okay or fine. So you kind of can just get away with it every time out. And most of that's just because of the decreasing strikeouts. He's only gone over 5 strikeouts once in his last 10. So more contact, more ways to get runners on, score a couple runs. That being said, I do think there's a couple of Phillies an interesting consideration here today. But the question for me is, what are you doing with Hellickson against the Mets?
I think I'm going to wait to see about Cespedes, right? Like, he's still unsure with, the injury if he's going to play. If he doesn't play, man, this lineup is so watered down. Like, it's so bad that I don't know. I think I would actually have some interest. It's not the greatest ballpark. He's cheap enough on 2-pitcher sites that if Cespedes is out of the lineup, it makes a big difference for me.
He just gets burned by right-handed power bats.
I know.
Like, when you think of the best right-handed power bat, it's literally Wilmer Flores. And at that point, when you say like best power bat and the answer is Wilmer Flores, like he should be like a lot higher in my consideration list. Can't you just see Wilmer Flores hitting another home run just to defy all odds here? Like it's actually like almost a good matchup for him.
Yeah, he's the one guy that I'm definitely worried about. Neil Walker is always a guy I think we have to worry about. Righty, lefty, I don't think it matters too much. I think Neil Walker is always a bat that we worry about, but Granderson, he comes into this game hitting 239. He has 15 home runs, but a lot of his home runs have been solo shots. When we look at his RBI numbers, they're down a lot this year, only 27 RBIs. So are we really worried about a solo homer for a guy that's cheap?
No, not really. And that's kind of why I think that maybe he's going to sneak a little bit under the radar because there's so many interesting options here.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a tournament play. We have some upside guys that we're going to talk about as we go. I just don't know, even paying up a little bit, if he has the same type of upside of maybe Strasburg or Carrasco today.
Yeah. God, Strasburg, that's another late addition too. He's kind of an interesting option. at that price point. Yeah, man, this slate's kind of it's getting a little more interesting as these teams keep changing their pitchers around to make it a little more tricky.
Yeah, we talked about Cologne. You mentioned like him giving him more contact this year. It's at 88%, almost a 38% hard contact rate this year for a guy that's given up a lot of contact. I think we can look at some of these bats like Herrera and Franco here.
Yeah, and Cody Ashley too.
Your boy.
My boy. I'm trying to see what his price is across the industry. He was starting to rise a little bit, but not on FanDuel. 2.8K today is perfectly an option. I will definitely consider him there. And 6.9K on Fantasy Draft. I definitely got interest there too. So I'm probably going to have some Cody Ashley shares as well.
You think Jose Reyes is back on the juice?
Oh my goodness.
24 at bats, 3 home runs. Like, he's on the juice again, right? We're going to see him suspended by the end of the month.
I mean, two home run game. They should have just like pulled him after as he was rounding third and be like, "All right, drug test time, let's go."
Oh, I wanted to make the joke. That's the only reason I even brought him up. I wanted to make the joke.
He's super cheap on DK and draft, but more on DK where you need a shortstop. He's actually like not even out of play at 3.5K.
Makes it interesting for sure. Pittsburgh at Washington, Laureano against Strasburg. Like you said, Strasburg late ad here. Polanco banged up. The Pittsburgh Pirates, when I was doing my article earlier, they're striking out a lot in July, and we see the numbers continue to increase. And I think this is a really great matchup for Strasburg. And with Bumgarner and Carrasco in good spots, you think that Strasburg goes a little under-owned here?
Yeah, I think he might. And he's the late addition too, so people like really haven't researched him all the way through. I definitely think at 12K, I think I would rather have Strasburg than Carrasco. I don't know what his price is on FanDuel. What's his price on FanDuel?
11.4.
So he's a little under Bumgarner. I definitely would have interest in Strasburg more there, but I definitely think he's in play everywhere. Pittsburgh striking out a bunch, but you also have to mention that McCutchen was starting to figure it out right before the break too, and that could be a problem.
Yeah, McCutchen, if he starts getting it rolling, I don't even think it was figuring out. I just think he's hurt, and this break could actually be the best thing for him.
Yeah, he had home runs in 2 games right before the All-Star break, hits in 3 straight. He kind of looked like he had it figured out right before the All-Star break. A couple more days of rest. I think you're going to see MVP-type Andrew McCutchen in the second half, and I would play him aggressively in this weekend series against Washington.
Yeah, it's going to, I have a lot of interest in Strasburg. He's my favorite tournament play on the slate. I just, the percentage that I think he's going to be owned plus, the type of upside that this guy's had this season, he's having a career year, 12-0. He's having a massive season, and I just don't see him slowing down much.
You really think who do you think is going to be the higher owned? Do you really think Bumgarner is going to be higher owned than Strasburg here?
At Petco against San Diego, people see San Diego and they just load up. And he had like 80 fantasy FanDuel points last time out.
Man, I guess we'll talk about him when we get there. But I am a huge Bumgarner guy, and I'm not a Strasburg guy, but I think I would take Strasburg over Bumgarner, price not being considered.
We're going to talk about Bumgarner for sure because I think we're going to be on the same page when it comes to that. No interest in Laureano here?
No.
Yeah, when we're looking at the Nationals, they've been top 5 offense against left-handed pitching pretty much the whole season. And, even their lefties and Murphy and Harper, they hit lefties too. I just don't think this is a good spot for Laureano.
Yep, and as always, you can play the Ram. He's always a good catching option if you want to pay up and be a little contrarian, get yourself some upside.
330 batting average this year. He's been an awesome hitter. Like, he's having a year, and he's a catcher. So you don't see many people consistent at catcher outside of Posey, and Ramos has been that guy this year. So I'm with you there. Jason Worth, though, he is mashing left-handed pitching this season. I have a lot of interest in him, especially if he's in that 2 spot.
Yeah, he's always a guy that I'm not going to play him on the slate on FanDuel. Like at 3.5K, it's kind of a loaded price point on FanDuel. I would just rather like 6 or 7 other guys before Worth, but he does match left-handed pitching.
Yeah, I have him as my first fantasy draft play of the 3 guys. I love his price tag at $7,200 on draft. So I'm going to lock him in as my first guy that I'm looking at here.
Yeah, I could definitely see it over there. The price, like the guys around him aren't guys that I'm like in love with. Like he's certainly the best player at that price point over there.
Man, if we see Trey Turner here, got to have some interest in Trey Turner at $2,300 on FanDuel, and he's cheap on draft.
Oh, he's 2,300 on FanDuel, huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
Your
wow.
boy Frazier's 2K.
Talk
Against
about
Strasburg, though.
talk about the ultimate leverage contrarian play. No, don't play Frazier in this matchup. But Trey Turner, if he's batting leadoff or near the top of that order, absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Espinosa, he's had a lot of power against lefties this season. Like this whole lineup, you can look at it for some value here.
Yeah, absolutely you can. There's definitely upside everywhere.
On a 14-game slate, I don't know if I can take any Pittsburgh bats here against Strasburg outside of McCutchen because I think you made a little bit of a point here on him.
Yeah. Josh Bell. Keep an eye out. They were supposed to demote him after that weekend series, and then they didn't do it. He's only 2K on FanDuel, and he's a 2.6K outfielder on DK. At that price point, you definitely have to have consideration. He's a top prospect. I don't care who you're facing.
Fair enough. Fair point. And we'll move on here. We got the Royals and the Tigers, Verlander and Ian Kennedy. I think Verlander is going to go underlooked or overlooked here on this slate. And I don't know, man. I just don't see the firepower out of the Royals this year.
I really like both pitchers in this spot, and I'm really surprised to see a total that's basically telling me 9. The wind must be really blowing out in Kansas City or in Detroit because it's a huge ballpark, and both these guys, their troubles are home run balls, and both pitchers profile really good against the Kansas City. As you mentioned, no real lefties for Verlander to have a ton of trouble with, and Kennedy has really done well against these boom or bust offenses. I think we talked about it right before the break, too, when he was facing Philadelphia or Toronto, and he threw up a gem. I really like attacking Ian Kennedy because he gets beat by the home run, but as long as there's solo shots, he has K upside versus those high K teams. So I really have interest in both guys, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that, those are fair points. And looking at the projected wind, 9 miles an hour really doesn't worry me too much. And this game's going to be in like the mid to high 70s. So I don't know. It's an interesting total.
Yeah, it feels a little high for what I'm seeing here. But, the Vegas is normally right, and I'm normally wrong. So I'm definitely going to have to go back. I'm definitely going to have to relook at everything regarding these pitchers.
Yeah, Verlander, a 150 favorite here. I think that makes sense. I do like this spot for him to pick up a win. I don't hate Kennedy. Like, you were making some good points, but I just don't know if I can roster him on this slate. I think there's better options, but I think he's really sleepy, as far as a tournament play goes.
Yeah, the problem is like when the slate started, he looked like a little better, and now it's like the slates come up. It's gotten a little weirder because Strasburg's at 12K now, and a couple guys have slid in under him in other spots, so it's kind of really tough to probably pull the trigger on him on fantasy draft. But on FanDuel, where it's 8.3K, I just see all sorts of upside, so I'll probably have a share or two over there.
Let's talk bats in this game. Anything stand out to you here for Kansas City?
This is a game where I honestly wouldn't target any bats other than a Detroit stack if you think Kennedy's going to get lit up by the home run ball.
Yeah, the one guy that I'm looking at, and I think it's going to be a FanDuel play. I'm pulling up his draft price here. Yeah, he's too expensive on draft, but if Brett Eibner hits in that 4 or 5 spot again, like he did right before the break, he's min salary on FanDuel.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see that again. But I could be wrong.
I'm hoping.
That looked like the Sunday before the All-Star game.
Hey, it might have been, but he was 3 for 4 with a home run on that day, and it paid off for me a lot.
Oh, he's 20% owned.
He's a good hitter, man. But
he used to be 20% owned against a lefty. Oh God.
Whatever. Yeah, fair points. I'm with you. If I'm stacking Detroit, that's the only way I'm attacking the Tigers' offense on this slate.
Yeah, that's a boom or bust option, and you would either need to stack or you need to stay away.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what Moya's price is at, and he's not even cheap enough on FanDuel where you can punt him anymore. 6K on draft is not terrible.
He's not even good. Why does everyone get falling?
Power upside, man. Power upside for cheap.
Oh wow, he's got 5 home runs and 80 at bats. I mean,
that's not bad. Come on.
It's not bad, but it's not like everyone was always running out to play Steven Moya. It's just like find a lower owned guy. Well, yeah, there's lower owned guys with the same amount of upside as him.
I think I hit a soft spot.
Yes, you have.
Siege has a Moya soft spot.
It's fine by me. Hey, I'm more than happy with everyone keep rostering Moya and keep getting disappointed. I make enough bad decisions on my own, so if you guys want to give me one back, fine by me.
All right, you know what game we're going to just load up on? It's this next one. Milwaukee at Cincinnati. Anthony Desclafini against Matt Garza. I'm guessing you don't have interest in the pitchers here?
Yeah, I'm crazy, but I'm not insane.
All right, this is a game I think that both offenses are excellent plays. I think this is a game that you can game stack. I think this is a game we can look at a lot. Let's start with Milwaukee. Who do you have here for the Brewers?
Yeah, I don't mind Carter, Scooter, VR, and Braun. I think you're a little higher on Milwaukee than I am. I don't mind them. DeSclafani is really good against right-handed bats, so that's kind of my concern here. But it's going to be Cincinnati. It's going to be hot, and that ballpark plays super small. So I'll definitely have some exposure, but I think you're a little higher on them than me.
I'm going to be stacking the Reds a lot more than I'm going to be stacking the Brewers, but I'm going to get my Brewers exposure too. I just think this is overall going to be a high-scoring game.
Oh, I'm with you on the Reds side. You won't hear any sort of resistance when we talk about the Reds.
Can we just try to figure out why Adam Duvall is $3,000 on FanDuel today?
I don't know, but this is one of those slates where I'm going to play cash because I feel like there's so many must plays that I'm just going to lock in all the must plays, throw in a pitcher, and I'll let everyone else make the mistakes around me.
3,000 for Adam Duvall. Just it doesn't seem right at all. And
you would think maybe it's a guy in his career who struggled against right-handed pitching. No, he's got like a career 315 ISO against right-handed pitching, so no.
Garza, 358 WOBA with almost a 35% hard contact to righties dating back to last year. Worst on the slate as far as WOBA goes. Fourth worst against lefties on the slate as far as WOBA goes. The Reds, 1 through 6, 1 through 7. I'm not going to say no to any of the Reds here.
I think when I wrote up tournament tactics, I think I mentioned like 8 different Reds as guys you could play in your stack. And in the NL, you only get 8 hitters.
I'm going to be really interested to see where Billy Hamilton bats in this game. We have a pitcher that doesn't have a lot of great stuff, and he's 6,900 on draft. If he's up even remotely towards the front of that lineup, he's going to be a guy that I'm definitely going to look at.
Yeah, definitely. And if it's Jose Peraza, he's the minimum on FanDuel as well at 2K. And he's actually now a shortstop on DK. I'm not sure how he got shortstop eligibility, but he's a shortstop that's only 3.8K. So if you need a shortstop, he could be your guy.
Yeah, any type of Reds value you see on the slate, take advantage of it. They're in an excellent spot here against Garza.
Yeah, I assume they're going to be the chalk, and I don't even care.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Baltimore at Tampa, Archer against Giovanni Gallardo. Man, burps are killing me over here.
1 week off from the podcast, and suddenly you forget how to say the team's names and the pitcher names. And,
yeah,
man,
well,
you're super rusty.
I don't think I've ever got the pitchers' names right.
I was just trying to give you some credit.
That's okay. I had a forum thread started about my pronunciation of pitchers.
That's okay. I can't speak anything in terms of English, so
yeah, I don't
worry
know.
about it.
All right, let's talk about this game. It's in Tampa, so if this game was in Baltimore, we'd be loading up on bats. Does it being in Tampa worry you, or are you still going to attack this game? What's your overall thought of this game?
I have no idea what to do with this game, and I've spent a lot of time just looking at it and looking at it and looking at it, and I think I just like too many other spots. I'm going to let this game go, but I think I'm going to regret it just because there's too much upside on both sides, whether it be the hitters or the pitching in the case of Archer, where I feel like if I just leave the game alone, I'm going to get burned, but I just don't know where to go. Outside of Crush Davis against Archer, which I think is a really good profile and he's got good BVP, I don't have anything I really like in this game. Talk me onto something, please.
No, I'm kind of in the same spot. I think that, you can look at the 2 big power bats from both lineups, Dickerson and Davis. Play the power upside guys. There's on FanDuel and DraftKings, there's 2 massive tournaments here. I think they're both $5, right?
Yeah, there's one on each site, I believe.
Yeah, I think there's 2 big $5 tournaments. If you feel like you're underexposed to this game, stack the teams in the $5 tournament. You're not using a lot of your bankroll and you're still getting your exposure. And if it goes off and you nail your pitchers and your other 2 hitters, this could be a spot where you can make a lot of money.
Yeah, that's not a bad call because the upside is totally here on both sides. Yeah. I can't really pull the trigger just because there's so many other spots I like a little bit more.
Yeah, this is a tough game because there's a lot to like in this game, and there's oh man, not a great ballpark. Archer can have those games, and Tampa is really right-handed heavy. What do we do with this game? And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a question for you. Logan Morrison now down to 3K. What's your interest level?
I have interest in Morrison. I know that we have a Twitter follower. I don't even know who it is. Every day he busts my balls about that Morrison call, but he didn't listen to a word I said about it, though. Like, I was telling him that he was going to be 1% owned and he had home run upside. Like, come on, give me a break. But
Ortiz was 200 more. You're still never going to win that.
I'm never going to win the argument. I understand that. Like, I accepted that Ortiz had a home run that night and Morrison didn't. Whatever. Shit happens. But, yeah, anyway, I think the power bats here are where you want to go.
Yeah, and they're mostly on the Orioles side. Trumbo, I think, will be a little too heavily owned on this slate, just given we've already mentioned some outfielders cheaper than him that are just in great spots. But he was getting hot right before the break, and I think people are going to jump on him. And I think he's an easy fade on the slate.
Yeah, 3,600 on FanDuel. I think that I'm just going to make a stack of this game. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'm wasting $10-15.
Yeah,
Chris Davis on draft 7,200. That's kind of crazy.
That's pretty much. That's like you could play him in cash at 7,200.
I know. I was pulling up the draft prices, and Davis is 72. Adam Jones is 72. There's a little bit more interest on draft than there is on FanDuel, and DraftKings they're pretty cheap as well.
Yeah, that's where I would have my interest. If I was going to build a stack, I think I'd build it on DraftKings or Draft at those prices, because then you can get contrarian at pitcher, maybe do something a little crazy like Strasburg and Bumgarner, if that's your cup of tea.
Colorado at Atlanta, Jorge De La Rosa against Lucas Harrell. I'm not believing in the Lucas Harrell hype. This guy was bad for a few seasons for Houston, and I'm not getting behind it here. What's your thoughts on Lucas Harrell?
If you told me that Lucas Harrell would ever throw 113 pitches in a major league game, you could have won a lot of money off of me. I was watching this game intently too. I had a lot of Cubs, and it was kind of fluky, but it really wasn't like entirely fluky. It kind of felt like I was dealing with the new modern day Kobe Lewis when I was watching it on the screen, or Doug Fister, where everything seems like he's going to get lit up. And he gets lit up a couple times a year, but not as bad as people think he is. I'm not saying I'm going to play him on this slate, but I mean.
Look, he doesn't give up a lot of home runs, but this is a guy that in 2 full seasons flirted with right around a 4.5 Sierra. Like, that's not good.
Yeah, but he's also in Atlanta for the start. Like, you're not going to be coming like is this like a lead in to saying that you're going to stack Colorado, or is this a lead in just saying that he's bad?
No, I just don't think he's good. I'm not going to stock the Rockies. They're priced like they're in Coors Field. If they were really cheap, like I have some interest in Trevor Story at 3K on FanDuel, but Cargo and Blackman and Arenado, they're just too expensive. If they were cheaper, I'd have interest. But
you have not looked at the fantasy draft or DraftKings pricing for them, have you?
Uh-oh. Am I going to have some interest over there? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Cargo is 3.5K.
Yeah, I have a lot of interest. A lot of interest at that price tag.
Yeah, I do in the price. The price tag is what's going to get me on this stack. Just because I don't think people treat Harrell – given all the good hitters parts in this slate, no one's going to rush to the Rockies, and I think they deserve to have some ownership. Like, anytime that someone's going to play against a Jared Weaver or a Doug Fister or a Kobe Lewis type, like, they deserve ownership. And so I'm going to be on them just because I think that they won't have any traction on them. But I don't necessarily am not in love with the spot.
Yeah, like I'm going to cross out one of my guys that I had for my fantasy draft plays, and I'm going to mark in Blackman at 7,600. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he's on the road, so he's guaranteed 4 at-bats.
Yeah. I mean, I would think I would rather play Cargo at 68, to be honest.
No, and, as far as upside goes, I don't disagree with you, but Blackman, you're almost locking in 1 or 2 hits at that price.
Yeah, I mean.
Stolen base upside with Flowers and Przinsky behind the plate. Come on.
I forgot about that, too.
Like, come on.
No.
Blackman, this is a great spot, and that price tag is ridiculous.
I totally forgot about Flowers and Przinsky, too. Oh, yeah. Man. Oh, I think we just talked ourselves into a lot more Rockies exposure.
Well, I looked at their FanDuel pricing when I was breaking down the slate because I was writing the FanDuel article, and I was like, man, if they were cheaper. And then you tell me to pull up Draft and DraftKings, I'm like, all right, I'm in. This is, this is crazy. Like,
yeah, I remember because I was writing FanDuel and I didn't write up any of them up, and then I was just doing a lesson, and then we were doing he was like, what about Arenado? And he was 4.1K, and I was like, oh no, don't tell me. And I saw all the prices, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, just looking at, like, Harrell's last full season was 2013. The guy had a 1.7 whip. Like, I have some interest here, especially if I'm praying. I'm just going to be like, all day I'm going to be hoping Przinsky is catching. It's probably going to be Flowers with the lefty. But, man. So let's talk.
What's it matter? They're both terrible.
They are both terrible.
The fact that you're, like, praying for, like, Przinsky over Flowers is, like, not doing it justice. Like, it's like, do I want strawberry ice cream or do I want cookies and cream ice cream? I mean, you can't go wrong with either.
Dude, I'm all for it. Like, I'm all for it. So let's talk Jorge De La Rosa. I have a lot of interest in him today as a cheap pitcher. I actually have interest on FanDuel because I think he's going to pick up the win. I have a lot of interest in the Colorado bats, obviously, from what we're just saying. 7,300 on FanDuel. If I tell you he's going to pitch 6 innings, pick up 4 or 5 strikeouts, and only give up 2 earned runs and pick up the win, you're going to have interest, right?
Here's my problem. And the Braves were so bad against lefties all year. But right before the break, they chewed up a couple of them. They chewed up Sale. They chewed up Quintana. Maybe they're starting to figure it out. That's the only concern I have because I'm totally with you on board. Like, I think points-wise, you're spot on. Like, that will still lead you in contention in a tournament. I liked him a lot more before Strasburg walked into the equation on the slate because the upper tier was pretty – you had Bumgarner and then you had a pretty big drop-off. Now with the second starter at the top, it's a little tougher, I think, to play a guy like Jorge De La Rosa without a real ceiling.
Yeah, I don't think he has a ceiling as well. What's his upside? 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, maybe 1 or 2 earned runs and a win. Like, I think that's the type of upside. I don't think he's a guy that is going to go out and get us double-digit strikeouts in this game. I don't see that. But, like, his biggest issue when I was looking into him, before we jumped on here and earlier today, is home runs. And when we're looking at the Braves, they have the lowest ISO as a team against lefties. Whether they've been good over the last few weeks or not, they were a hot baseball team, and we'll see what happens here coming out of the break.
I think if you're playing a bunch of Jorge De La Rosa, like if that's your guy, you have to play Jeff Francoeur as a one-off somewhere. Because that's the guy that's going to burn you.
Yeah, I'm all for that, or Beckham, like maybe a Braves right-handed little mini stack to hedge yourself.
Yeah, Chase D'Arnaud, Beckham, and Francoeur.
Just listen to who you just said that you're worried about.
I know, but they were so hot right before the break. Like, they were in fuego. You couldn't get them out. Stevie's laughing at me.
I'm not laughing at you.
Go look at Jeff Francoeur right before the break. Mind you, we're talking about Jeff Francoeur. 3 consecutive games over 15 FanDuel points. I'm not saying he's a bad play. I think I just like a couple guys more that we're going to talk about. Like, I'm not – they have at least a ceiling that I can get to.
That's fair. So that series in Chicago, the wind was blowing out all 3 games. It was blowing out at a high clip, the White Sox, and it was like 89 to 93 degrees for most of those games.
And you think it's going to be colder than that in Atlanta?
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to rain all day in Atlanta and Florida. Like, we're supposed to get a ton of rain tomorrow, and then it's supposed to be like in the mid-80s to low 80s for the rest of the day. Look, I'm trying to make sense of how they destroyed Sale and Quintana.
I'm not sighing because I disagree with you. I'm sighing because I agree with you.
So, all right. So let's make this. We've talked about the Colorado bats. Atlanta, I feel like you're going to want a 3-man stack if you're running out De La Rosa. You have these $5 tournaments to take advantage of running hedge stacks with, the upside of winning a lot of money.
Yeah, I really like how both sites have them today too. You can really hedge where don't play a single Rocky on FanDuel, kind of load up on them in that $5, get your exposure there where they have massive upside at those cheap prices.
Yeah, it's a fun slate. I'm glad they're doing this. And then, if you don't want to have to play against a bunch of hedge teams, you got a fantasy draft tournament with, 6 entry max that, $25 and makes it a lot. That's where you're really going to want to focus on your core players.
Can I also give me like a 5-second mini rant? The 100-man tournaments on FanDuel are the most underutilized thing in DFS. If you're a GPP guy and you're playing like a moonshot, play a $1 100-man head-to-head. Like, you can actually win that thing and really boost your bankroll at some point, as opposed to like the moonshot where you're never actually going to win the darn thing.
Ran over? You feel better?
Yeah, I do, because it just they feel so fast that people never like use them, and I don't understand why. They should be like, whatever. It should be like head-to-heads. They're the tournament version of head-to-heads. They really are.
See, when I started, I started playing in 2009, so 100-man GPP back then was like our big GPP. So a lot of my bankroll was built on those 100-man tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, even when I started a couple years ago, like I played a bunch of those 100-mans when I played that stuff, and like you can actually like start printing money in those. You get hot, like you can start. It starts to add up. You don't think it's going to add up, but it really adds up fast, and you can actually win it and get that top-heavy part, which is always the best part about it.
Cleveland at Minnesota. Carlos Carrasco, Irvin Santana. Carrasco, that last game he had right before the All-Star break against the Yankees, I don't think I've ever seen a defense let a pitcher down as much as that, Indians team just – they took that day off. They really did, and he really struggled in that start.
Hold on. I need to find my Google Hangouts picture so I can give Stevie a death stare. You haven't seen a defense let a pitcher down more. Need I remind you what happened when we said fade the Red Sox? And Texas said, here, Red Sox, let's give you 3 extra outs in the second inning.
3, like 6?
Yeah. Stevie's just like, the look on Stevie's face is like, yep, this was not a good point to bring up. But anyway, it was not a good defensive performance. I will say that. I agree with you there.
Yeah, 3 2/3, 5 hits, 4 Ks, 5 runs, only 1 earned in that start. This is a great bounce back spot. The Twins, extremely hot in the month of July coming into the break. They're one of the hottest teams in baseball. The strikeout upside's still there. This is a good spot for Carrasco to get right and just have one of those type of Carrasco games.
My interest in Carrasco is basically what I think the ownership's going to be. If I think he's sneaky, I'm going to get on board. If I think he's going to be kind of trendy, people are going to say it's a good bounce back spot, I'm out.
I think we're going to have to gauge the interest, right?
And I think it's going to be tough to gauge, so I'm going to be I'm going to read a lot of content tomorrow. Because that's going to be a really tough decision. Like, you're going to have to make right off the bat when you're trying to figure out how to approach the slate, what you're going to do with Carrasco. And I just have a feeling he's going to be kind of like a trendy guy. He was the high-priced guy that's been in there the entire time, so people had more ability to warm up to the idea of playing him again. I think that Carrasco is going to be a little higher owned than I would like. So I think I'm out, but I definitely can see the upside for sure in this spot against Minnesota.
Irvin Santana on the other side, I think one of the reasons that Carrasco is going to be so popular is he should get run support here. The Indians should be able to put up some runs here on Santana. I'm guessing you don't like Santana?
That would be a very wise guess, sir. All
right, let's talk bats in this game. Nothing really stands out to me for Minnesota. I know you're going to mention one guy, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but it's just nothing really poking the bat here for me.
I'm not mentioning him against Carrasco, but I am the Kenneth Vargas master and whisper. I'm the president of the Kenneth Vargas train. Don't play him today.
I don't think anybody can argue, right? 3 days out of the 5 days, last week, and I think he nailed everything for you that you called on him.
He still doesn't have a single since his recall. Not one.
Well, he can't have his recall cycle without a single.
I know. He has 8 hits, and they're all doubles or home runs. That's really good for DFS purposes.
Man, that just sucks. Yeah, I don't think this is the greatest matchup for him. Now, looking at the Indians, I think they're a great offense today, but I think they're all priced too high outside of Santana and Chisenhall.
I just never love this offense because I just don't see the power upside to win a tournament on a large slate. I tack Cleveland on the 7 or the 8 game slates, but on these 14 game slates, I just the power upside on this team just doesn't really get me interested. So I always kind of fade them on these big slates.
I think the Indians are a team that you could see a 10 spot on the scoreboard from them, and you'd be you pull up and you'll be they're not going to kill me tonight.
Yeah, it's exactly kind of how I feel about them. And I'm not really too worried about them at any point. So that's kind of why I just kind of fade him and hope maybe some ownership goes there. Irvin Santana did throw a gem right before the break, but that's not sustainable.
Yeah, teams are taking some days off. Let's be honest. It was right before the All-Star break. Those guys were ready to get to their families and relax for 4 days.
Yeah, a complete game shutout with 8 Ks from Irvin Santana. That's the season highlight moment for him.
Yeah, good job. You absolutely destroyed Oakland. Like, pat on your back for you. Oakland's such a good offense. Good job. Miami at St. Louis, lefty against lefty here. Chen and Jaime Garcia. We have interest in Jaime from time to time, but I think this is a matchup we can kind of avoid both these pitchers.
Here's another game that I've kind of just written off the existence of the planet. I just don't really have a ton of interest in Jaime, and I do love attacking lefties against the Cardinals, but Chen is another guy who's just like, if I'm going to take a lefty with no upside, I'm going to play Jorge De La Rosa for slightly more.
Yeah, dude, I'm totally with you there. I'd much rather have De La Rosa than Chen, and he's cheaper on FanDuel as well. But, when Chen gets hit, he gets hit hard by righties. He really does. But outside of Piscotty and maybe Diaz, is there anybody that we could really target here for the Cardinals?
The Silent H is a little underpriced industry-wide. I don't mind him.
I've seen that as well. I have a tough time rostering him from time to time.
The upside is just like from a third baseman, you kind of want to have a little more power upside than him. So I get it, but the price is kind of just a little too cheap. Where if I need a one-off, I can kind of just I can talk myself into him.
Now looking at the other side here, Jaime Garcia is not a terrible pitcher, and he really has some reverse splits. For the most part, he's been really good against righties. And after what we've seen with Stanton at the Home Run Derby, is he the easiest fade because he's going to be so popular here?
Yeah, he really is going to be so popular.
Like, I don't even care if he goes out and hits 2 home runs. I'm just going to accept it because I know I'm not going to play him on this slate.
I just can't. Yeah, the price. I'm kind of annoyed at the price on DraftKings because it's just so high that it might just appreciate the ownership instead of letting people fall for the trap. So that kind of annoys me. But on FanDuel, he's going to be like, what, 30%?
I'm guessing he's going to be high. Like, from past year's experience with the All-Star break, and Frazier was extremely popular last year coming off the All-Star game. So, man, I think Stanton's going to be popular here. Everybody's going to be saying, like, he got his swing back. Did you see what he did at the Home Run Derby? And granted, he has been hitting the ball a lot better, and he's been hitting for power. But if I know a guy's going to be 30% on any given slate, I feel like I can fade him and be okay.
Yeah, especially a guy whose boom was bust, as Giancarlo can be.
Now, Ozuna has been crushing lefties this year. His price is up there. And like I said, Jaime Garcia really doesn't give up a lot of home runs to right-handed bats.
Yeah, this game just kind of just is a stay away. I wouldn't play Ozuna. I wouldn't get cute and play a lefty. It's kind of too big of a slate for that. So I think it's kind of just hope this is a 3-2 game type deal.
And I could perfectly see it being a 3-2 game. Like, Chen, he definitely has upside to give up home runs, but Garcia just doesn't give up a lot of home runs.
Yeah. It just doesn't give up, and doesn't give him up in bunches either. He's kind of a guy when he gets in trouble, it's because of the walk and the 3-run home run, not because he gives up 3 solo shots.
The walk is definitely right. He walks way too many people. He drives me insane. Anyway, Dodgers at Arizona. Bud Norris. Now, we don't have a confirmed starter for Arizona yet, and everybody that I've seen is Patrick Corbin. Is that kind of who you're seeing too?
I haven't really found a report that I'm in love with in terms of the starter. I kind of thought they were going to roll out Robbie Ray, but I haven't seen anything that makes me super sure about that because it would be normal rest for Robbie Ray, and this would be a good spot to throw him out there, but I haven't seen anything yet.
I see at 8:55 tonight we have an official word that Corbin will start.
All right, so let's look up Corbin. And
why do you do that? Did you see the news that Shelby Miller got optioned to AAA?
Boy, was that a great trade, huh?
Was that a good move, you think? You think Shelby Miller should got an option there?
I mean,
he needs to get right. Like, he's pitching awful.
Yeah, and oh no. Have you seen the price for Corbin on DK yet?
No, I'm guessing it's low.
The lowest you can be.
We have a min-salary pitcher today?
He is 4K.
He's 8K on draft. Like, we have a min-salary pitcher against a team that really struggles against lefties in a good ballpark. This could be interesting.
Well, I wouldn't call it a good ballpark, but it's not.
Chase Field's a great ballpark.
For pitchers?
No, for hitters. I'm saying we have to weigh the great hitters ballpark against the team that really struggles with lefties. And
I got you. I thought you meant great ballpark like it was Petco. And I was like, yeah. No. Oh boy. Kind of like he kind of takes the Eduardo Rodriguez spot in my if I need to go star and scrub.
Yeah.
Could be interesting. He was pitching a bit better before the All-Star break. Had that one rough start in Coors Field, and who doesn't? But outside of that, he's been pretty decent. 13, 13, 16, 14, 22. I'll take that for 4K.
Yeah, you give me double-digit fantasy points and my hitters do what they're supposed to, I feel like I'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, so he's definitely in GPP consideration for me. Bud Norris, I really like to attack against teams with lots of lefties. These new pitches are just death against lefties. Arizona, not that type of team. So I think Bud Norris is going to get some traction, and I'm not going to be there.
Full fade for me. No Bud Norris on this slate. People can say what they want to say. I don't know. I can't do it here at Chase Field.
It's really real. It's real, but it's not real against this type of guy.
DJ.
It's completely new pitches. It's new pitches. It's not like he's just magically like throwing out some pine tar like a Michael Pineda or something.
Are we sure he's not doing that? Are we sure he doesn't have pine tar in the glove?
I mean, maybe, but it's also a new pitch type. So it's like I'm just going to target him against left-handed heavy teams for the time being. Kind of got roughed up by Baltimore, which is a right-handed power team. And my buddy, I'll give him, who's a Baltimore fan, kind of like the Bud Norris whisperer. He's just like, play him against left-handed heavy teams, fade him against right-handed heavy teams. So I'm going to kind of – the approach has worked so far, so I'm going to kind of stick with it.
All right, let's talk bats in this game. Is there anything that stands out to you here for the Dodgers?
No. I mean, no. I'm not going to fall into that trap. You think anyone's actually going to play Grandal today?
Maybe, just because.
You never know. He's got 3 home run upside.
Hey, remember what happened last Friday? I won the fantasy draft tournament with Grandal's 3 home runs.
I do. 0% owned. You did a good job.
0% owned. We talk about it all the time, CJ. We talk about catchers never being owned, and of course, he helps me take down a tournament.
Yeah, that shows you that's how you do it. You say one thing on the podcast, you do the exact same thing, and you print the money.
Yeah, like I thought he was going to be 0% owned or hit 3 home runs. I didn't think he'd be highly owned, but 3 home runs, 5 for 5 on top of that. Like, come on, but
that never will happen again. But it's fun when it happens when you own him.
One bat that I like here is Trace Thompson. He started to slow down a little bit, but when we look at Corbin, he does struggle with righties and gives up a lot of hard contact. And this is, I feel like, the one guy that could do some damage here.
I just can't play him at this point. He just looks so out of it. Kind of reminds me of Jock Jams last year at this point, where he just like went on this massive cold streak and just never snapped out of it.
Yeah, that's fair. He has been really bad. He'd be a tournament play only. And I think I'm talking myself into Corbin more and more here.
Yeah.
How does it sound?
I really hope I just tell myself that, no, there's some of these mid-tier guys have upside. We're going to talk about them there in these last 4 games. They're on the West Coast, and they just got higher upside. So hopefully these cheap guys we talked about just get me up into this middle tier, and I don't fall into this trap. Maybe.
Now, looking at the Arizona bats, you mentioned right-handed bats. Paul Goldschmidt should be a little under-owned here.
Yeah, but, I mean, this is one of those slates where it's just going to be so hard for me not to play David Ortiz.
You can play them both on fantasy draft, CJ.
I can do that, and that is where I'll play Paul Goldschmidt. I will play some on fantasy draft.
Any other bats that you like here? Maybe Segura batting leadoff?
I can't go. There's so many cheap middle infielder guys. I really can't tell myself to pay up for a guy that's just not a power guy.
Toronto at Oakland. Bad ballpark shift here for the Blue Jays. Rich Hill scratched. From what I've heard, Daniel Medgen's supposed to start in this game. Marcus Stroman on the other side. Do you have interest in Stroman here at Oakland?
I don't hate him. I don't think I'm going to roster him. I just think he can do better on the slate. Oakland has enough lefties that can potentially do damage to him. I just think I would rather play a Santiago or a Paxton.
We'll get to those guys here in a minute. Daniel Medgen getting the start on the other side. Any interest in him?
Depends on where the price is. I got a little more interest on FanDuel with that super cheap tag than I do on DK. Kind of got roughed up in that last start at Houston before the break. Kind of felt a little unlucky, though, so I kind of still believe in him. But on this slate, again, this is kind of a guy I like to target on those smaller slates. I think you can do better.
Yeah, I can see that, but we're looking if we're just looking at ballpark for in general. Oakland bottom 5 in home runs last year. The Blue Jays do their damage with home runs, the top of the order. I can see Medgden being an interesting play here and hitting value at his cheap price tag.
Yeah, I definitely can see him hitting value. I just wonder where the tournament does he really have the upside to help you win a tournament? I don't know if he can get you quite there. But value, I think he can do for sure.
I think he has the strikeout upside. Like, he's shown the strikeout upside. He's averaging over a strikeout per inning this year, and the Blue Jays strike out when they then. We like the Blue Jays for upside, you know.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's not like I'm against him. I just think I'm gonna go Santiago and Paxton over him. But it's not like I'm firmly against him by any shape, measure, or form.
Yeah, I'm talking it out, getting, you know, your thoughts, my thoughts. Let's talk bats here. Anybody for the Blue Jays that you like in this game?
Edwin is always firmly in play as a tournament guy because he's got he's got 3 home run upside in any game he plays.
Yeah, not the greatest ballpark. I can get behind that though. I feel like Donaldson's another guy you can look at, right?
Yeah, Donaldson always a guy. I love attacking Donaldson when he's low owned. He kind of like is a superstar that kind of either is like 50% owned or he's kind of like 10. He never is like the guy that people consistently play, like a Trout or some of those guys that are just always going to have ownership. He kind of just flows based on his hot streaks. So he's definitely a guy I play when he's cold and fade when people are on him.
Any other bats here for Oakland or the Blue Jays?
Oakland lefties, I think, are an interesting one-off tournament if you needed to fill in one. Josh Reddick is going to eventually figure it out. I don't mind him, but not a team that I have much interest in overall.
I would love to know if Josh Reddick spent any time in the cages in this break because I feel like he's a guy that this break could really help.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I definitely think that I need to see it with him before I roster him, but maybe one of you guys are better players than me and can pull the trigger on him. And this $5 tournament, $50K to first, he's got the upside.
That's true. Chicago White Sox heading to Los Angeles to take on the Angels. Hector Santiago, Miguel Gonzalez. Sell me on Santiago. You kept mentioning him.
Yeah, I really like the spot for Santiago. I just see the upside here. The White Sox strike out 23% of the time against left-handed bats. He's put it together. He's thrown 4 good starts out of his last 5, 1 earned run or less in 4 of his last 5. The walks are always an issue, but the White Sox don't walk a ton. They only walk about 8% of the time against left-handed pitching. Their ISO is super small, 158, one of the smallest in the league against left-handed pitching. I just see it upside here. It's games in Anaheim. It's a pitcher's park. I like Santiago with the price tag and the relatively low ownership I think he'll have tonight.
You know I have a soft spot for Santiago.
I do too. I should expose that. I'm a Hector Santiago super fan, so I find any excuse I can to play the guy. So you should be warned.
Yeah, he's won 3 of his last 5 starts. You know, outside of getting blown up, that's the problem. Like, he has these blow-up starts. You make enough points where I think that, you know, we can look at him here. You know, you mentioned the White Sox strike out 23% of the time. They're 20th in team ISO against lefties this season. Like, everything. And, you know, weather-wise, this should be one of the best games as far as weather goes as well. So I can get behind it here.
Yeah, that's the case. Now, the point against him is that Todd Frazier is in a great spot. He profiles extremely well against Hector Santiago, a guy that I really like as a one-off third baseman if you need to find one. There's not a good ton of third basemen I like today, so he's definitely a guy that can get you a home run or two.
Any other bats that you like here for the White Sox?
That's it for me.
Now, looking at the Angels, Miguel Gonzalez stinks. I don't care what he's done this season. Miguel Gonzalez stinks. The problem is, where do we attack Miguel Gonzalez?
I mean, you're the guy who wants to attack him, so I'll give you the floor.
No, he just sucks. Like, I don't care about attacking him or not. It's a 14-game slate. I really don't have to go to L.A. outside of Trout. Calhoun is a guy that I have a lot of interest on draft. He's my third fantasy draft play. It's just because of his price, 6,900. Miguel Gonzalez, like this is a great price for Calhoun. It's too cheap. Miguel Gonzalez, a guy that 340 WOBA to lefties dating back to last year, 1.48 home run per 9. This is a good spot for Calhoun.
Yeah, he struggles more against lefties. Fine, I don't mind him as a one-off, but I don't target Miguel Gonzalez. It doesn't normally end up very well for you if you try.
Well, it's hard to stack against him in this on this slate, but Calhoun at 6,900, like, come on, man.
That's definitely a free square. I'm on board with you there.
Moving out, we're heading to Seattle, where Houston is playing the Mariners. We have Doug Fister, James Paxton. You had a lot of interest in Paxton. I'm going to let you do a sell job times 2.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same case. You look at the Astros, they strike out 24% of the time against left-handed pitching. Team ISO of 161 against left-handed pitching, only an 87 WRC plus. Like with all those big right-handed bats, you think they're good against lefties, and they're really not. And James Paxton, it's a good park downgrade for Houston. I love me some James Paxton again.
Yeah, just comparing numbers from 2015 to 2016, Paxton is pitching much better. His Sierra's down 50 points. The home run rate and home run per 9 is way down. The walks are down. The swinging strike rate is up. The contact rate is down. The strikeout rate is up. Like everything is saying Paxton is having a good year. The numbers necessarily, when we look at overall numbers, hits, earned runs, stuff like that, they're not necessarily going to say the same thing that his advanced stats are saying. His problem has been hard contact. He's been giving up a lot of hard contact, a lot of medium contact. That's been his issue this year. He's not getting a lot of soft contact. But when you have a guy that throws in the high 90s, you're going to have those issues, and that's why we like to target him more at a pitcher's ballpark like Safeco.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And that's kind of – and Houston's a team that if they throw out some of those lefties, kind of raises that K floor a little bit, helps you give you a little more wiggle room here.
I'm going to say one thing, though. If you're playing Paxton and you have exposure to him, make a Houston head stack on this slate.
Yeah, that's what the $5 tournament's for.
Yeah, I love this little $5 tournament that we actually have a lot of upside where you can win $50K if one of your hedge stacks goes off.
Yeah, I haven't played multi-entry in a while, but I'm going to be back on this slate.
Yeah, just it's a good slate to have some hedges for where you're making some bold plays with your pitcher, and I like Paxton here. You mentioned all the reasons why I should like him for the Houston bats, but like I said, if you're rostering Paxton, have a stack of Houston. Like there's too much upside and power there, and he's given up a lot of medium and hard contact.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Every time people play Houston against lefties, it's just a major disappointment. And I think it's going to be more of the same tonight.
Yeah, they're a team that's much better against righties, even with all that right-handed power in that lineup.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the sneakier trends out there from the first half.
Oh, Doug Fister. Doug Fister struggles with lefties. Seattle has some lefties in this lineup. It's Safeco. Can we look at the Mariners here?
I'm not listening to you. You're not talking me into stacking against Doug Fister. I'm done forever.
All right, well, take your headphones off. I'm going to talk about some Seattle Mariners lefties here. Doug Fister, 1.69 home run per 9, 345 WOBA, almost a 34% hard contact rate, really low strikeout rate. He's a fly ball pitcher. He's going to be facing power bats here. Love Cano at 3,500 on FanDuel. Love Seager at 3,200. If you want value, look at Seth Smith. And if you want a guy that I don't think a lot of people are going to be on, look at Adam Lynn. CJ has his headphones off. He's done listening to me talk about the Mariners. I actually think the Mariners are a sneaky stack here on the slate.
No, never going to get me to stack against Doug Fister. You know what he does? He gives up a lot of nice long fly balls. You know what's a great part to give up a nice lot of long fly balls that don't leave the yard? Safeco. If this game were in Houston, maybe you could talk me into it. Not at Safeco.
You realize if Seattle scores a bunch of runs in this game, I'm just going to blow you up on Twitter.
Oh, you know why there's a $5 tournament on this slate? So I can build a sedge stack and then beat all of your Seattle stacks and have you go off on me on Twitter.
Yeah, if you have a Doug Fister team that goes off, no invite for the podcast for at least 2 weeks.
No. I said it's a Mariners stack that beats you.
Oh, okay.
If I hedge with the Mariners, because now I don't. If I get mocked on Twitter, at least I want to have one good team, and I beat your Seattle's teams and win the $50K. I'll be uninvited forever.
All I'm saying is I want at least 2% for that Seattle rant. San Francisco at San Diego. This is a great ballpark, great ball game, just really good game. Madison Bumgarner, Andrew Kashner. So the Padres, they started the season as one of the worst teams in baseball. They probably are still one of the worst teams in baseball against right-handed pitching, but that's not the case against left-handed pitching anymore. They're second in WRC plus, and I remember at a time this season they were like 25th and 26th. How much do you weigh how good they've been against left-handed pitching?
Vegas is. Bumgarner's not even a 200 favorite against Andrew Kashner against one of the most left-handed heavy teams in the league. That should show you kind of where the confidence in the Padres offense, I think Vegas thinks it's real. I think you could go a complete fade here at Madison Bumgarner. With Strasburg on the board now, I think you can really take the leverage play and just completely fade Bumgarner in this spot. Could it backfire? Absolutely. Could he just be going on one of those tears? Sure. But if Bumgarner was playing the Cubs or the Nationals or the Red Sox back when they could hit lefties, would we really be talking about him as a number one overall play on this slate? I don't think we would. I think the name Padres is just going to kind of change where people's heads are at, and they shouldn't. So I think he's going to be overowned, and I think you could fade him.
The only interest that I have in him today is if I end up playing FanDuel Cash, I think I have interest there. And the reasons that I'm saying that, 15.2 innings against the Padres this season. He's only allowed 3 earned runs. He has 20 strikeouts in those games. He's a guy that has at least 6 innings pitched in 16 straight games. He gives you a really solid floor, and I think he picks up the win here because Andrew Kashner is not good at throwing the baseball past people.
Yeah, the BVP for the Padres is pretty darn terrible against Bumgarner.
Yeah,
I'm really curious to see where that Vegas line moves. It's minus 200 now. It starts approaching 180. I'm probably going to be off. If it goes up to 220, 230, I'll definitely have some Bumgarner exposure. I'm going to trust Vegas on whatever decision it makes. I'm going to ride it.
That makes a good fair point. If Strasburg wasn't on the slate, Bumgarner would be the easy one. Like, he would be the easy one. I really think that. But with Strasburg, it gives us options, and it makes people make options. And like I said, the reason that I like Bumgarner, he gives you a really solid floor with knowing that he's pretty much going to go out and throw 6 or 7 innings here. I
still think Bumgarner is going to be like the chalk guy because people just don't respect the Padres worth a darn. And if he's just going to be higher owned than Strasburg, I don't think it should be that way. I just don't think the matchups are that much different that we should be giving Bumgarner this much more respect than Strasburg. He's 12-0 for goodness sake, and he's pitched like a stud every time out.
Yeah.
So and it's not like that they have good BVP against him either. It's quite terrible. So I definitely think I like Strasburg over Bumgarner in all formats, even in cash.
You make fair points. I think that whichever way you end up at a Strasburg and Bumgarner in cash, I feel like you're going to be okay.
I think you need to make a stand on those guys, though. Even in tournaments, like you need to pick one or the other. I wouldn't start getting cute mixing and matching.
Go ahead.
No, I think this is a night where we're talking about kind of like playing some different hedge stacks and getting cute. I think you need to take a stand at the top and pick one of your stud guys and have that be your guy, and then just root against the other two. I think that's kind of my strongest take on the slate. It's like there's definitely a bunch of interesting tournament stacks, but at the top I would take a stand.
So it's always interesting to see the type of teams that you can make when you take 2 studs. On DraftKings and Fantasy Draft, it's actually pretty easy to fit in Strasburg and Bumgarner.
Yeah, does it involve a lot of Rockies?
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's kind of the problem.
So, like, in cash games over there, do you feel like it's really smart to just roll out both of those guys on draft and DraftKings in your double ups and 50-50s?
Yeah, I guess you can really build a decent – if you can build a good enough core around them, I would go ahead and do it. But I also wouldn't sacrifice all your upside with the bats. Like, if you can't fit in an Ortiz or a Betts or, like, one of the high upside guys, I wouldn't go that far.
So with Strasburg, Bumgarner, and Ortiz on DraftKings, you have $3,000 left per player.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that. So I think it's kind of like I'm not willing to sacrifice all my hitting upside. Like, yes, there's a lot of values, but you definitely need some hitting upside at some point to win too, because this isn't a bad mid tier for pitchers either. So I don't mind it if you want to go there. Like, if value opens up you feel comfortable with, go for it. But I wouldn't just sacrifice every piece of high end hitting to make it fit.
Pay attention to lineups. One thing that I do want to note, we got to like the Giants here, right? Like Andrew Cashner has not been that good.
No. Belt, Crawford, Posey, whoever else they roll in the lineup, Ramiro Pena, if they roll him out, he's kind of cheap as a middle infielder and hitting the ball decent against right-handed pitchers. I kind of like them all.
So, Belt, 4,100 on FanDuel. If you had to guess ownership with everybody that's around him, would you put him under 10% here?
Yeah, he'll be under 10%.
And one other name that I want to throw out on FanDuel that I just feel like is just a guy you want to have in your lineup, Brandon Crawford, 2,900. That's ridiculous. And he's been hitting in the 5 spot.
Yeah, and he also gets a guy that can't throw anything to left-handed hitters at all. So that is definitely a good call.
Yeah, all right, so just an idea how bad Andrew Cashner is. 372 WOBA, 35% hard contact rate to lefties with almost a 12% walk rate. Like, he struggles with lefties so bad. Crawford is 7 for 17 against him with really good numbers, just all around really good numbers. He has a home run, he has a lot of RBIs, and he's only struck out 2 times in 17 at-bats.
Buster Posey, if you want to pay up for a catcher, kind of the right-handed bat I got interested in. Good BVP as well.
Yeah, I like the Giants stack here. I feel like on FanDuel where you can only stack 4 guys, that the Giants stack is going to be really sneaky.
Yep, and it's going to be the late hammer too, which is always kind of nice.
Yeah, outside of Seattle. Oh, let's play some home run derby. I finally took some time to tally it all up. I'm actually down by 4 to the co-host and guest here, so I have some work to do, CJ. But as a fair guy, I'm still going to let you bat lead off here.
Oh, no. You're behind the standings, so why don't you got to catch up eventually. So go ahead. As a regular guest, I can let you go first once in a while.
All right, well, I will take the guaranteed home run and David Ortiz then.
That's fine. I'll take Mookie Betts.
Going from the same game. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't think this next one's going to be very popular, but I really like it. I'm going Franco.
Yeah, look, I don't want to get super chalky here, but it's one of those things. I just want to mention his name one more time. Adam Duvall.
Yeah, I'm not going to hate it. He's way too cheap. I'm definitely not going to hate it. I feel like I need a bat in that game as well. I'll go Jay Bruce.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Mr. Bruce. I'm going to take your boy, Brandon Belt, as my final guy against Cashner in that late game.
Come on, I will give you a half a point if we ever have a tie, if you call a splash home run.
It's not in that park.
They're in they're in San Diego. I'll shut up. He'd really have to hit a bomb.
I was gonna say there's like no water anywhere near there. So
why did I think that game was in San Francisco? Man, I get it 4 days off and right downhill.
That's all right.
This one's gonna be fun. If you had to pick one pitcher at the end of the day, not named Bumgarner, Strasburg, or Carrasco, to pick up a win, doesn't have to score the most fantasy points, but you like him to pick up a win here. Who do you have?
Oh boy. You're not going to like this, but it's Mr. Paxton. Actually, you kind of will like it. It's Mr. Paxton.
Yeah, why would I like that? I like the offense. He's definitely going to pick up a win. He's going to pick up a win by like 8 runs.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to have to pitch a little better than that. But I do like Paxton today.
Oh, let's see. I don't want to go chalky. I'm going to go with my initial thoughts here. I'm going to go Jorge De La Rosa against Atlanta.
Yeah, that's definitely another stack that we kind of think is a little sneaky too. So I definitely can see there's a guy that I think is going to get a lot of run support, maybe win by 6 or 7.
Man, I feel like it was a great podcast. Just to recap the fantasy draft plays, Worth, Blackman, Calhoun. You guys have been blowing me up on Twitter to do that at the end of the podcast. I'll try to remember. It's probably not likely, but I'll try to remember. Make sure you guys head on over to fantasydraft.com, the sponsors of the podcast. So if you guys enjoy the podcast Monday through Friday, head on over there. Use promo code Grinders. That way you get incentives here at Roto Grinders for free for a year. And you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. If you enjoy Siege, CJ, whatever you want to call him, I call him friend. If you guys enjoy what you have to hear here on the podcast, make sure you head on over to RotoGrinders. Lock in some hours of coaching with him. The stuff that he's been doing is amazing. CJ, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm starting some group coaching too. So maybe if the price point's a little high and you're interested in some group coaching, shoot me your email through DM. I'm probably going to do that with Big T, and we're going to probably launch that in the next couple of days here. So if you got interested in that too, shoot me your email. We'll send you out that info.
Yeah, just, if you want to get into advanced stats and breaking down stuff like you wouldn't think the average person does, CJ is a great coach to help you do that.
I appreciate the very kind words.
Yeah, well, you're good at what you do. I'm not going to not say that you're not. Like, come on, man.
Hey, it's always good to come back on the podcast. I love doing these. It's always nice. Especially, I feel like I was super informed today. Normally, I feel like I'm teaching myself as I go along. This time, I felt like I was giving all the info I got to the listeners. So this is going to be a great slate, though.
We're setting the bar high. Enjoy the slate. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you again on Monday.